I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Savor every last drop of summer with Starbucks. From bold refreshers to rich cold brews, the sunniest season only gets better with a handcrafted iced beverage in your hand. Available for a limited time. Your summer favorites are ready at Starbucks.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits. From sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome and happy Thursday, June the 26th. The attentive listener might have noticed that I was away for a week. I was on vacation and some harrowing things happened to me in Spain that we're going to talk about in a few moments. But let me tell you what you'll hear on tonight's show. Those who are feeling depressed, out of sorts, actually can fall victim to conspiracy theories at a rate higher than those who aren't. And it happened to somebody who's regularly on this show. Why? We'll analyze that with a conspiracy theory expert and cover some of the unbelievable center of the earth people ruling the world-ing conspiracies that he believed while he was sick. That'll be halfway through the hour. After that, if you like men who own probably too many video game consoles, have no coping skills, dodge conflict, and ghost you at the sign of first stress, you might be dealing with a man-child. But what is a man-child? And why do so many people date emotionally immature men? Also, why does my producer think this topic is a good one for me? That we'll cover at the top of next hour. It's going to be a great action-packed show, so let's dig into what happens when everything from you is stolen while traveling. Oh, I gave away the story, didn't I?
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The man is here to correspond about what happened to me in a foreign country. He's our foreign correspondent, Tony Five. My goodness. What a pleasure it is to see you.
Holiday! If you took a holiday, take some time to celebrate. Yeah.
You missed your calling as a opera singer?
As Madonna?
Yeah, you missed your calling as Madonna.
Madonna.
Too bad Madonna's already Madonna, or it could have been you.
You are back from holidays. You don't look tanned. You haven't shaved your head, and you haven't got dreadlocks, my friend. So I would say it's a pretty bad holiday.
I'm a little tanned. Come on, I'm a little tanned, no?
I thought that was just the darkness in your room, my friend.
I just had a harrowing journey.
Heroin? You get caught?
No, I didn't take heroin. Harrowing. Those who are listening to the show attentively may have noticed, yesterday we had a rerun.
Did it sound better second time round?
It probably did. I was away for my 39th birthday.
Yeah. Oh, 39, David. 2 years closer to 40.
Yes. Well said. Important details.
Thank you. Carry on.
I was in Spain.
Mamma mia.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Catalonia.
Yeah.
Which is the area that Barcelona's in. They actually don't really like the Spaniards there.
It's called Basque, the Basque region. They don't like it. They speak Catalan. They're not Spanish. You can't call them Spanish because they're from the Basque region.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of tourists don't know that. And so they're like, oh, we'll go to Barcelona, Spain. And they're like, no, you're in Catalonia.
No, and they hate the tourists, by the way. But you wouldn't know that because they love people like you, right?
Tourists?
Yeah.
There have been protests there about tourists. I didn't see anything. Although one time we were out at a cafe a few days ago and two people walk through the neighborhood by the cafe with squirt guns. And the cafe was very much like a locals only kind of thing. Like it was sort of a biker bar. And the people with the squirt guns stopped at the cafe, but they gave a kiss and a hug and a hello to the owner and the waiter. So I don't think it was like a Target tourist spot, but I was saying to my girlfriend, look away, don't say anything in English. Like,
do you feel like it was the 60s for black people? Do you feel that way inclined? Do you feel like that woman that sat on the back of the bus? Is that how you felt?
No, not at all.
What's her name? Hillary Kempton. What was the name of that woman? I can't remember. Anyway, carry on. We don't need facts here, David.
No, it was Rosa Parks, you idiot.
There you go. I knew it had something to do with like greenery. So carry on.
So yeah, we went. We had a nice time. We decided to spend a few days away from Barcelona in this beautiful coast. It's called Costa Brava. We go for 3 days. Very relaxing. Just like beaches, eating, chilling. Walking through gorgeous little Catalonia, not Spanish town, so I guess they're technically Spanish.
Cobblestones, the warmth in your hair.
Oh, yeah, like, you know.
It sounds so peaceful and picturesque, my friend.
I feel like the Mediterranean coast, places in France and Italy are what everyone talks about. No one really talks about Costa Brava, but it's cheap. You'll soon find out why. And beautiful, and it's just as nice, although I haven't been to those other places, but I imagine it's just as nice as those other places. So we check out of the hotel, and we have a rental car, and there's a big sticker on the rental car for the rental car company, which basically screams, "Hey, rob me." We get to the spot we have for lunch, and our stuff's in the trunk because we just checked out of the hotel. Now it's covered, but it's an SUV, so it's like a little felt covering over the trunk. You know that thing?
Yeah.
And I have a stomachache to end all stomach aches. I have traveler's diarrhea, okay?
Oh, is that worse than New York diarrhea?
It is much worse. And
wow.
We are eating. I can't eat lunch. It's so bad. I am running back and forth to the bathroom. My girlfriend's trying to enjoy this lunch by the coast. You can see the water. You see people swimming. It's a nice restaurant. And she's like, go to the trunk of the car and grab a Pepto-Bismol.
Yep.
Which is a stomach medicine, which you don't have in the UK, actually.
No, is it the pink stuff?
Yeah, it's the pink stuff. I think it has a chemical that's like illegal in the EU.
Bismuth.
Good memory. So I go to the trunk and I open it up and I reach around from my suitcase deep, you know.
Reach around.
Meanwhile, anyone who's walking by can see that a tourist has all this stuff in their trunk. Yeah. So I go back to the lunch. We finish up. My girlfriend really wants to go for this walk. I'm like, I can't. I got to be in the car. I got to be like on the road. We got to have a gas station every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We get to the car and I'm like, you know what? I'm wearing white pants. I better go to the trunk to change my pants just in case.
Yeah.
So I open the trunk and the bags aren't there and my brain is not computing what's going on. I'm like, clearly Miranda must have moved them.
Yeah.
And then I say to her, our luggage is stolen. And she's like, what? She's like, you didn't lock the trunk. I'm like, our luggage is stolen. My passport's in there, my green card, everything I possibly, everything. No. Like I have the clothes on my person, which are white pants, by the way.
White pants and diarrhea. That sounds like fried green eggs and ham, but carry on.
And I have my wallet. So I got credit cards and a driver's license. No passport, no permanent resident card for here in the US. And Miranda's like, she starts yelling at me, you left the trunk unlocked. And then we look at the side of the car and the window's smashed. So thankfully I wasn't going to get in trouble for the rest of the trip. I was sort of relieved. I'm like, you call the police. I'm calling the Canadian embassy. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
She calls the police. The police are like, go to the most local station. And the embassy's like, come in the next day.
Wow.
And so we drive.
Was it a nightmare?
It's a total nightmare. I'm like, I feel like I want to throw up. All of a sudden my traveler's diarrhea goes away.
Of course it does. Maybe that's what you need to do next time is get diarrhea and get someone to break into your house.
I felt what can only be described as dysphoria, which is the opposite of Eugene-phoria.
Yeah. Did you feel violated? Like, I can't stand things like that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to get my identity stolen, my laptop. And then I realized like all my work for this show is on the laptop.
Okay, so you didn't lose much.
Yeah, I have a backup hard drive of everything. The hard drive was in the bag because I was backing up for computer failure. I wasn't backing up for theft. I'm an idiot. Yeah.
But how are you now?
I'm okay. The ordeal that involved me going to the Canadian embassy and my girlfriend going to the American embassy was kind of fun. Totally different experiences.
As in?
Like just all the stereotypes of Canada and all the stereotypes of the US, minus the horrible politicians, I think can be summed up in our two embassy emergency passport gaining experiences which I guess I need to tell you after the break. And we'll get Tony 5, our foreign correspondent's commentary on this theft in just a few moments.
And we'll find out after the break if his girlfriend got shot at the American embassy and if David met Mounties at his.
Probably none of that happened, but maybe it did. We'll be back with Tony 5 and a lovely Spanish vacation experience in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Test, check 1, 2. You know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Does that sound all right? Ah, that's better. You can always tell something's missing when you get isolated results. Like AI that's only right for one of your systems. Get AI that can work across your data and applications. Learn more at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
We're broadcasting relationship truths and scientific discoveries with a comedian's touch. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Tony 5 is back. He is our foreign correspondent in London, England. I am David Cooper. Tony is a beautiful bald man. I have a head of hair. Tony, welcome to the show.
David, way to be racist right at the beginning. Let's go.
I don't know if baldness is race, but if it is, I apologize to those out there. Before the break, I was talking about my trip to Spain that I just got back from. We got robbed. All of our things stolen, taken away, and passport. I live in the U.S., my green card, my girlfriend's passport, all of our clothes, my medication, everything's gone. I'm standing there like on the coast of the Mediterranean, an hour north of Barcelona with nothing, not a thing.
My God, I've just realised you had no medication. I think after the passport green card thing, the medication would have really freaked me. You had money, right? You had money with you.
I had my credit card. I had everything on my person, which included my wallet. I should have thrown my passport and green card in my pocket. I'm an idiot. I'll never not do that again.
It's okay. Yeah, go on.
But I had my driver's license, which could prove my identity. I had money. I had credit cards, but that was it. Like that was it. I had the clothes on my back. I was thinking, well, tomorrow, what am I going to do about clean underwear? So we drive to the police station on the recommendation of calling the police. They won't speak English with us, but it's right next to our hotel. So we fetch the woman from the hotel we just checked out of.
Right.
And she comes and she's like, well, this is a small little police station. You got to drive to the central one. We go to the central one. We make a police report, which I know I'll need to like get a new passport, this, that, and the other.
And insurance and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, my girlfriend's like, you know, the keys I bought you for your birthday, I made you put that AirTag on. Sorry, for Christmas, she bought me an AirTag, and she made me put it on my keychain, and I hated it because I'm like, I don't want to be tracked. What do I need this for?
Wait, before you continue, is this going to be like one of those vengeance stories like John Wick, or where you find the Spaniards and you beat them to death?
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the cops will come with me to wherever the AirTag is. So we go to the station. Yeah. They're like, well, we're not going there. It's an hour away. The thieves drove back to Barcelona. We were about an hour away on the coast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We take the report. We want to get to our stuff and we don't know what to do. The cop's like, well, you can try the police in Barcelona. Maybe they'll come with you to where the AirTag is.
Okay.
Like the tracking chip.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, this cop is taking forever to write a report. And all she wants to do is talk about how she loves Miami to us. And we're thinking they're like, shut up.
Well, I like Miami as well. I've never been, but let's be honest now. Your loss plus absolute emergency of a situation doesn't trump Miami and Will Smith's ode to Miami.
Yeah, welcome to. She starts telling about her kids and how she loves traveling. And I'm like, I can't tell this cop who's taking this report to shut up. And everything we tell her, we give her a euro range for how much it's worth. And she's like, I'll put the most amount. I'm like, okay. And then at the end, she's like, hopefully that'll help you with insurance. Now, I didn't lie to her when I gave her ranges.
Yeah.
But afterward, I realized she's taking the numeric amounts for what we lost so we can make an insurance claim. And she's basically like pushing us to commit insurance fraud because she's like, how much was your clothing worth? I'm like, I don't know, 500 euro to 1,000. She's like, put 1,000. I'm like, the police just aided me. Well, I didn't lie about any prices, so it's not fraud.
Yeah.
But she put the maximum amounts.
Yeah.
And that's just so funny to me that a Spanish cop was like pushing me to make a high insurance claim.
I mean, disclaimer, we're not saying all the Spanish police are corrupt, but, well, carry on.
Well, I guess she wasn't assuming I was lying about the range. But anyway, back to the story. So we get the report, and we go to Barcelona, and we don't know what to do. My friend who lives there, who's one of my close friends, meets us at a police station, and he's trying to convince them to come with us to the AirTag. And the cops are like, look, we can't enter an apartment complex where this AirTag is just randomly and kick down doors. They're like, go to the thing, and if you see the thief, call 911. Well, not 911. It's like 227, 228. I forget. I don't know what the number is, but you know.
Okay.
So we go, and my friend tracks the AirTag to a Spanish dumpster.
Okay.
And I peer in, and there is our clothes littered with disgusting food stuff.
So they'd had dinner as well?
They'd had dinner. Well, in Spain, everyone puts their household garbage in these central dumps. It's not like they come to each house for collection.
Yeah. I get it.
So I jump in that dumpster. My friend, he goes and gets like, I don't know, garbage bags and plastic gloves and hand sanitizer and alcohol wipes and everything you would need to dumpster dive in a pinch. And we start pulling out a lot of our items. None of the stuff of value. No passport, no green card, no laptop, no hard drive, no headphones, no medication, notably. Okay. Why did these thieves need my medication? I don't know. Why did they need my medication? I don't know.
I don't know, but there's probably some Spaniards now dressed in some of your outfit absolutely high off their head, right?
Well, here's the rude part. I'd say 95% of my clothes are in there and maybe 30% of my girlfriend's.
So they left your clothes?
Yeah, they're like, this guy's clothes are garbage and my girlfriend's stuff was nice. So she didn't get back a lot. I started saying to my friend, like, there's one medication that I need.
Yes.
It's my mood stabilizers, and they have withdrawal side effects. I get very like,
yes. I
can't sleep without them.
Okay.
And I'm thinking I need to sleep. So we go straight to a pharmacy. My shrink sends me an email of my my medication. So I have a prescription pad of it.
Okay.
But the pharmacist is like, we can't accept prescriptions written in North America.
Oh, for God's sake.
He's like, you need to go to the hospital and get prescriptions. I can't give you these drugs over the counter.
Right.
And I'm like, well, can I just have like 2 pills? That'll last me overnight. And then tomorrow I'll go to the hospital. Yeah. He's like, I can't sell you 2 pills. I can only sell you a whole box of 30 days. He's like, you need to go to the hospital. It's illegal for me to sell you these pills. I'm like, oh God. Okay. I'm like, where's the hospital? He starts writing it down. And then he's like, just a second. And he walks away. And I'm like, I turn to my friend. He's like, wait. I'm like, what are you talking about? The pharmacist was rude. He told us he can't write us the prescription. But he walks away and he comes back with a box and he lectures me. I'm only doing this once. I can't sell this to you again.
Wow.
And he sells me my meds. It was the first lucky break we'd caught all day.
Thank God for that.
We leave the disgusting soiled things. And this garbage bin that I went through was like, there was dirty diapers, there was rotten food, moldy onions. There were smells that are ingrained in my brain. At one point I had to take a break because I felt like I was going to, hurl.
Vomit, yeah.
But we got a lot of my clothes. We garbage bagged it up. The next day we went to a laundromat, washed it on hot twice. A couple items that were dry clean only, we sent to a Spanish dry cleaner.
Yep.
By the next day, we had our clothes. The embassy experience. I went to the Canadian embassy for my...
Wait, sorry, let me stop you. But you didn't have a suitcase. So how did you have to buy another suitcase?
Yeah, I went to like a corner store and bought a 20 euro suitcase, which is actually really nice.
Yeah, silver linings, bruv. Silver linings, fella.
At the embassy, the Canadian one, there's like one security guard. He won't let me in. He doesn't speak English. And I say, I'm Canadian. He goes, oh, you're Canadian. He lets me in. At the embassy, they were waiting for me. They're like, hi, David, we were expecting you. They were so friendly. They were so nice.
Wow. They let sit down, maybe have a cup of tea, some pancakes, maple syrup.
Yeah. They were chatting with me. One of them knew somebody in radio. She put me in touch with her friend. And they called my references while I was there, and my references didn't answer because it was sleepy time in Canada.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, do you have any friends in Europe? I I called my two friends who lived in Europe. I texted you, but you didn't get back to me right away. They called my references while they were there. They approved the passport while I was there. They're like, pick it up on Monday. My girlfriend went to the American embassy, guns.
They shot her.
She had to surrender her cell phone. It was like a DMV, like people through the glass. It was just like what you imagine the American bureaucratic system to be versus the Canadian was like completely, the embassy was a little microcosm. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Microcosm. But I love, God bless America. That's brilliant. I mean, the fact that they had probably AK-47s pointing at her, where she has only one set of clothing, she's been robbed. That is surreal. But, you know, she got back, right? She's not there, is she?
Yes, she got back. I couldn't get back right away because I only had a Canadian passport. I didn't have my green card. We'll tell the story quickly when we come back with Tony 5, and then we'll have conspiracy theory expert Nathan Radke on for Conspiracy Corner. Tony's going to talk about how while he was feeling sick, while he was depressed, he fell victim to conspiracy theories. Our conspiracy theory expert is going to explain to Tony the mechanism by which that works. We'll be back with Tony 5 and conspiracy theories when you aren't feeling well and why you might feel victim to them.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Pluto TV. Summer of cinema is here, and Pluto TV is exploding with thousands of free movies. Feel the explosive action all summer long with movies like Gladiator, Beverly Hills Cop, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Good Burger, Stealth, Four Brothers, and Star Trek. Bring the action with you and stream for free on all your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never. Stream now at pluto.tv.
Your nightly dose of unfiltered opinions and unexpected conversations. Unexpected Conversations. The Last Show with David Cooper.
I am here with foreign correspondent Tony 5, finishing my stuff stolen over the vacation story. Tony, welcome back.
David, I mean, these could tie in quite nicely. The fact that you were robbed in Spain and the fact that I believe in conspiracy in Big Spain, I believe it to be true. I think you were targeted because you were a DJ, a news radio host.
No, I'm a talk radio host. I'm not a DJ.
Well, same difference.
I think we were targeted because our stuff was in the back of a rental car, and there's a big rental car sticker on it that says, "Please rob me." And so all the Spanish thieves go to all these fancy parking lots because we were like outside of Barcelona. Anyway, here's where we are in the story. I get an emergency passport from the Canadian embassy. My girlfriend has an emergency one from the American embassy. I go to the American embassy.
Bloodstained. Her visa is bloodstained from all the people they've refused in the past. Carry on.
They tell me because you're a permanent resident, they can't admit you to the U.S. without a green card, and they can get me a special document, but it takes a week. So they're like, fly to a port of entry, Toronto, and just try to talk your way in. So that's what I did yesterday.
Wow.
And at first they were like, we're not going to let you in without your green card. They made me wait 2 hours, but at the end, they waived the $600 they charge you to enter this country with lost documents so they can prove who you are.
Wow.
They waived it. They let me in. I flew Spain to Toronto to New York. I'm back. It was a harrowing journey. And
did you cry in front of them? How did you get away with the $600?
They really wanted to know why I was in radio now and not in software engineering, which was the industry I got my green card in.
Yes.
They did not, they were like kind of semi-accusing me of getting my green card fraudulently. But then when they confirmed that I actually did that job and I did it for some time after I got my green card, I didn't just get my green card and quit and go straight into whatever I wanted to do. They let me in, no problem. But for a second there, it was like touch and go. They're like, because at one point I said, well, if I'm here much longer, I'm not going to get on my plane. And they said, if we don't give you your documents today, you're not getting on any plane. You're not going into the U.S. And I was like, oh my, I started panicking. But they let me in. They were kind of very strict and they lectured me about losing my documents. But then in the end, they were nice and they let me in. And they waived the fee, but they said, if you lose this again, you're paying that fee. And they wrote it on my paperwork. One-time waive only, yeah.
Did they have to listen to the show?
No, but they asked me a lot of details about the show. Maybe they looked it up. I hope they're listening tonight. U.S. Customs, you were strict, you were stern, you lectured me, you made me feel like you wouldn't let me in. But then in the end, you were very nice. So that's my experience with them.
You know what? Let's end this with thank you very much, US Customs, for allowing David back and continuing this show. Now, the audience might not be as thankful, but we're thankful to you.
All right, now for something completely different. All right, we've done something very exciting. We've split the time between Tony Five and Nathan Radke, who is here for Conspiracy Corner. Nathan, welcome in, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So here's what I want to talk about. Tony, about 2 months ago now, just recovered.
God, David, it's really gone quick. Yeah, it's about between 6 and 8 weeks ago, yeah?
He recovered from a deep, deep depression where he was unable to work on the show, unable to get out of the bed. He miraculously recovered. Thank goodness. We were worried about him. But it's not quite what I want to talk about. While he was kind of sick, he felt maybe not victim, but deeply curious and deeply obsessed with all things conspiracy. And it got Tony thinking, ... That's your cue to speak, Tony.
Well, like expanding upon what David said. Basically, I was bedbound for maybe 4 or 5 months. I picked up a really bad habit of having my phone in bed. And the habit got even further. I never used to pick up from people, so I never had the phone for communication. I had YouTube on. And then I got really, really tied up. And YouTube has this weird algorithm. If you listen to one conspiracy theory, all of your recommendations are conspiracy theories. So there's a couple of really good guys that I would say is to listen to. Like the Y-Files is a guy who presents this show, and he kind of has both sides of these conspiracy theories. But it was anything from Roswell aliens, JFK, 9/11. And I was the rabbit that fell down the rabbit hole. And I wanted to know why. Why did I become so obsessed with it? I couldn't sleep without it. They would ruminate in my mind, and I couldn't find anything entertaining, anything other than that. And people talk about mindfulness stuff, the meditation stuff, music. It didn't do it for me. It had to be that, Nathan. Why?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. This is a question I get a lot. People ask me, what sort of people get consumed by conspiracy theories? And the answer to that question is all of us. Any of us can be. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. One, some conspiracies are true. Even some of the strangest ones are sometimes true. Were the Americans thinking of nuking the moon? They were in the 1950s. I mean, CIA, mind control. We've been through all of this stuff.
Oh, God, yeah, MK Ultra, absolutely.
All of this stuff, and it is true. And so that's one of the reasons why we believe conspiracy theories, because some of them are accurate. But when you're telling your story, there's something that becomes extremely clear extremely quickly, and that is you sounded like you were pretty isolated.
Yes, definitely.
And isolation is something that it's absolutely toxic for the human animal. We need other people as much as we need sleep and water and food. Because when we are isolated, it has sort of a feedback loop effect. Because we're seeking out an explanation for what's happening to us. Mm-hmm. And our brains are extraordinary things.
We're social creatures, aren't we? We are social creatures, right?
Yeah, we're hyper-social. I mean, think about it. What's the worst thing? If somebody's in prison, what's the worst thing you can legally do to them is put them in isolation. Even separating them from the other prisoners who would be, you know, stabists and arsonists and stuff. That's still the worst thing to do is remove us from other human beings. And so that's one of the things that probably made you a little bit more vulnerable is the fact that you were isolated and then you were seeking out some kind of community. And of course, conspiracy theories come with community, a community of believers that immediately you feel embraced by and part of. And so that's one aspect to it.
Did the promise of connection while these people were speaking kind of at you watching these videos, Tony, was that something that was all there, or maybe that was going on subconsciously?
I also think I'm an engineer by trade, and I'm very methodical, mechanical. I like a solution to things. And I think not having the answer to so many of these things maybe hyper-stimulated me because I was not doing so much. I needed that stimulus. My brain needed to focus on something because I wasn't focusing on life, right? And maybe that was it.
I mean, that's another big aspect to it, right? Not only are we social animals, but we are problem-solving animals. Our brains are thirsty. They need to work out. And when you are I mean, you're on your own, but you also have a window that's looking out into a world of information and disinformation, because you said you were spending a lot of time on your phone, a lot of time on YouTube. So you're getting bombarded with information constantly. And when we're in that situation, our brain wants to find patterns. Our brain wants to find explanations. And because you were in a rough situation, because you were dealing with mental illness, you want an explanation not only for the things that are happening in the world, but for the things that are happening to you, the things that are happening in your own head.
Exactly.
And the seductive thing about a conspiracy theory is whatever the problem is, there's going to be a conspiracy theory that claims, that appears to solve that problem completely.
Yes.
And this is why when you think of the things that people believe, the absurd things like shape-shifting reptiles, for example.
Yes. The royal family being lizards. Yeah, that's a good one in the UK.
Exactly. Shape-shifting lizard people. No, exactly. And you think, well, how could a person possibly believe that? But the answer is because that does solve some problems for people. Yeah. And the problem might be, why is there massive social inequality? Yes. Why do we see these decisions being made at a high level that affect us that we don't seem to have any kind of say in? Why does it seem like the people in power are so disconnected from the needs and the problems of everyday people? Even something as ridiculous as shape-shifting reptiles, it does sort of solve that problem for us. It gives us a solution. And so as ridiculous as it is, it still scratches that itch. And we are a very, very itchy people.
I'm here with Nathan Radke. It's Conspiracy Corner. Foreign correspondent Tony Five is here, and we're discussing why he, when depressed and unable to get out of bed, believed in so many different weird conspiracy theories. Some of the ones he believed in that you won't believe yourself.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about them now.
Any particular one, Tony?
What do I like at the moment? I like Hollow Earth. That's quality. Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth, and who lives there? Spoiler, the answer might surprise you. I don't know. That was my best attempt at a tease.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
We are back with foreign correspondent Tony Five. Tony, welcome in, my friend.
David, talking conspiracy theory with the legend of conspiracy theories, right?
Nathan Radke, a professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic. He co-hosts the Uncover Up podcast, which you should check out. I personally love it and listen to it. I recommend it wholeheartedly after this show's.
I'd like it. I'd like to go on it, David. I'd like to do it more than this show.
All right. Tony was depressed about 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
And it was a prolonged depression where he couldn't get out of bed. And he was kind of obsessed with YouTube holes, if you will. Tony, what were some of the things that you were getting kind of distracted by?
I don't even know where to start. So my interest in it has always been, I guess, since I don't know whether I've told you a story, but I was in Boston on 9/11. My flight was 2 flights from Boston Logan before the one that crashed into the tower. Did you know that?
What? You've never said that.
Okay, I've still got my stub, my American Airlines stub ticket from 9/11. I think it was 10:18 or 10:20 in the morning, and the first one flew out at 8:30. And when I was there, this is for another show maybe with Nathan, I saw and heard things that would lead you to believe there was a conspiracy or there were things that the media were controlling. But let's park that and let's talk about what I'm interested in. So, for example, David Icke, a famous British nutter, as we call him, was a famous sports presenter who then went on a show and said he was the son of God. He was Jesus, reincarnated, and became this huge conspiracy theorist advocate. He sells out concert halls. He sells out he does, doesn't he, Nathan?
Yeah, no, he does extremely well. He's made an entire career. He's basically built up an entire industry on it.
Yeah, and he believes, his first belief is that the royal family and all the upper echelons are, I think, what's the name, Nathan, of the big family? The Rothschilds. He believes that the Rothschilds are the super beings who control everything, and the most famous thing are shape-shifting lizard people. My favorite kind of lizard people, by the way.
They are the best. Well, Jesus washed his disciples' feet, and this guy was a footballer.
Yes.
That's all the evidence I need.
That's it, David.
Wait a second, this is checking out.
Yeah.
This is making some sense. I'm coming around to this.
The dots are connecting, my friend. So, for example, I've gone from that, which, again, the more, let's say, the more out there theories, I don't kind of get into. But, for example, the 9/11 conspiracy theory, when you see architects and engineers for 9/11, these very highly qualified, a guy like Richard Gage, for example, who put scientific and engineering theory into why these buildings don't collapse, my mind is trying to go, well, it can't be, can it? Or it can be. So that is like my prime one. And then all the way to the JFK, where, you know, was there a second bullet? Was there a second shooter? Those are my, I would say those are my top level ones, going all the way down to like Hollow Earth, whether black people exist, those are sort of things.
Tony, you just need a mirror to prove that one.
Well, David, that's what you say, but I don't believe in mirrors. Carry on.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. I mean, when you talk about something like the JFK assassination, or you talk about 9/11, it makes perfect sense for us to find these incomprehensible events and to come up with conspiracy theories that explain them, because they seem so unexplainable. The other thing is that in both of those cases, we have situations where the public was lied to.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of JFK, we had the Warren Commission,
yes,
which came up with the official explanation that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and was the only gunman. But that was a conclusion that they were ordered to come to.
Yes.
And they were ordered to come to for a very specific reason, which is that historically, that was in the depths of the Cold War. If it had turned out that there was some kind of Soviet hand behind the assassination of JFK, we could have been looking at World War III.
Yes. And he had spent time, he was married to Maria, I think, I can't remember her name, Marina, who was Russian. He spent time in Russia.
Yep, he had defected to Russia.
And he got kicked back out. Yep. So there was so much truth, like, dotted about in that theory. Like, where do you sit on it? Like, obviously you know all the elements of it. What do you think?
Well, I can 100% understand why people are suspicious of it, because recently, of course, we had that big document drop where we were able to get access to a bunch of old CIA files, which were absolutely fascinating, and I spent days and days and days poring over them. But what we saw wasn't that there was some kind of organized plan by the CIA, but that the CIA was far more disorganized than they would want people to know. A lot of the stuff that was in those files was embarrassing revelations about the CIA trying to kill Castro or mess with the Cuban people.
Exploding cigars, exploding
seashells, poisoned bathing suits, like the whole nonsense. But also I came across things, just randomly opening different files, about the CIA poisoning sugar shipments from Cuba. Like, there was a lot of stuff in there that they didn't want to get out. None of it was about Kennedy, but there were some interesting things that Oswald was on the CIA's radar before the assassination. And so again, when you come across something like that, how do you not say to yourself, like, the pieces seem to be coming together? But the thing that we always have to remember is that the world isn't some kind of well-organized puzzle. It's a massive chaotic mess.
Yes.
And incompetence and randomness and coincidence. These are things that conspiracy theories rarely incorporate into themselves, but they are such a fundamental part of how the world and history tends to unfold. And we always have to remember that. It's kind of humbling. Well, we got to keep it in mind.
What makes it so easy to ignore this kind of chaotic, random? Yes, there's government secrets, but there's also just a lot of weird coincidences. What makes it so easy when you're in a place like Tony, not well, falling into the YouTube conspiracy theory hole? What makes it so easy to accept these simple explanations instead of like saying, well, the world's a more complex place. I know something shady's going on, but I'm not going to believe it.
like I felt it was almost an organized chaos. And I think you keep convincing yourself, yeah, it's chaos. So I would speak to somebody like Nathan, who is rational and will tell me the facts, and I'll go, yeah, but. And that's the problem. It's the yeah, but. And then you get into this circular argument with people like Nathan, which I can be like Nathan now. I can step back and go, well, that's ridiculous. But at the time, I would have genuine, but yeah, but no, but what about, he's done this and she's done that, and there's files on that, and there's a Zapruder file and this,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing too is, there is a bit of a dopamine hit when we think we've solved a problem.
Yeah.
And that's a very satisfying thing. And if you're suffering through something like depression, like dopamine, you're craving it. You're craving that moment of spark. You're craving that moment of interest. Because this is one of the tragic things about depression. It takes those things away from us.
And it's the feeling of feeling special, like you're the one that's looking behind the curtain. You know something that maybe other people don't know. Like, yeah, they are lizard people, or yeah, I know what happened to JFK, or I know what happened to 9/11. Like, you read the Richard Gay things and the comments are unbelievable. Like, everybody is sheeple. I never heard of that term before, sheeple, people that believe in the mass understanding of things with mass media.
Wake up, sheeple!
Yeah. And you feel like, maybe you're right. Maybe it is that feeling of inclusion with a community that knows something that the general population doesn't. Like listening to this show, for example, David.
I like this idea that, like, you're not right. You're feeling sick in the head. You're lacking dopamine, and those little hits, those aha moments. Oh, the world is hollow. Oh, the lizard people did kill JFK, and someone's explaining it so clearly on YouTube, and I know something fishy went on. This could be it. I feel like those dopamine hits are few and far between when you're depressed, and that can be one of the mechanisms.
And that makes you feel better. Like, this is why this is happening to me. Because people that go through mental health problems, there usually isn't a reason, right? And you're thinking, why me? That's the thing that goes right. Why me and not? And why me? And you're going, okay, well, this is happening in the world outside of me, so maybe that's the reason.
Two Idiots and Nathan Radke here. I'm David Cooper. We are here with Tony Five, foreign correspondent. Nathan Radke is a professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic. Check out his podcast, The Uncover Up. Nathan, this has been an enjoyable stream of consciousness journey that I would not have done with anyone else. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on. And thank you, Tony, for sharing your story.
Thank you, David. I'm going to go back in the rabbit hole now.
Coming up after the break, the strange world of dating the man-child. How to spot one, and how many video game consoles is too many. Ladies, take notes and maybe stay away. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Roll baller Alonzo Ball for Buzzballs. Ready to go cocktails. Take 12.
Buzzballs just dropped their biggest blue balls.
Script says Biggie's blue balls, Lonzo. Take 13.
Blue balls just dropped their biggest buzzballs. Ugh.
Let's try a vocal exercise.
Buzzballs, Biggie's, blue balls. Buzzballs, Biggie's, blue balls.
Big balls just dropped. Get blue balls this season with Buzzballs.
Please drink responsibly. Buzzballs available in spirit, wine, and malt. 15% alcohol by volume. Buzzballs LLC, Carrollton, Texas.
This is your invitation to a journey where relationships are dissected, science is simplified, and the news is hilariously twisted. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Let us dive in to the weird world of the man-child. No, not a fun comic book character, but a guy with the maturity of a middle schooler and the conflict resolution skills of his broken Xbox. Relationship scientist Dr. Marisa Cohen joins us, and frankly, I feel a little personally attacked that my producer thinks this topic is a good one for me to cover. She is also a relationship expert at dating app Highly. Marisa, welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let us define, rigorously perhaps, the phrase man-child. This one gets thrown around a lot, and yes, I'm looking at you, ex-wife. But what does it mean when we say a dude is a man-child?
So first, I just want to share that this is not a scientific term. This is a term that's become recently very, very popular as a result of Sabrina Carpenter's new song. But a man-child is basically an individual who lacks any emotional maturity. So that can include lack of self-awareness, lack of conflict resolution skills, inability to self-regulate, and perhaps inability to communicate effectively, and a lack of empathy. So a lot is all thrown into that definition there.
I'm furious at my producer. Stop describing me. How can someone spot a man-child early on when they're dating him? I feel like the honeymoon phase of dating, you don't notice these things. And then as you start doing real stuff together rather than just candlelit dinners, that's when you start to notice these signs. What are they? How do they first present themselves? If I'm a woman dating a guy or a guy dating a guy, how can I spot this stuff?
Well, first, to your point, the honeymoon phase is a wonderful, exciting time in a relationship, but it is also a time in which many people ignore red flags because they're just not as easy to spot at that point. And the honeymoon phase can last anywhere between 6 and 18 months. So you really want to be on the lookout for those red flags, and also want to share that absolutely anyone can be a man-child. This isn't only for men, but this is just any person that lacks emotional maturity. And just some things to look out for would be an individual who is unable to communicate effectively. Maybe they shut you down. You try to bring up issues that you have with them. They might be a person who lacks the ability to take your perspective, so there's no empathy. They're a person who might not validate your needs or even listen to your needs. It also might be an individual who gets very defensive anytime you try to engage them in conversation. It may initially be difficult to spot in those early stages of the relationship, and that's why it's important to have the deep conversations to really get to know about the other person.
There's this great quote from a cartoon I like. It's, when you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. And I feel like that's the honeymoon phase, right?
Yes. I love that.
Why do people end up with man children despite maybe seeing these signs? Like, is it naivety? Is it wishful thinking? I'm coupled up and have been for a long time. When I started dating my girlfriend Miranda, the apps were kind of a novelty thing. They weren't the culture. Is it just dating's really rough out there, so people ignore red flags, or is it something more?
So what I do want to acknowledge is dating can be quite challenging, and some people may just not see these red flags. And even when they do see the red flags, they may feel as if this is something that can be overcome throughout the relationship, or they are more focusing on what they believe their match or their partner's potential is rather than how they are truly presenting themselves. So they might be looking to see the best in a person, which may not be what that person actually ever achieves within the context of that relationship.
Interesting. Yeah, seeing the best in people. I feel like that's such a good quality, and you shouldn't try to cynicism yourself out of seeing the best in people. But on the other hand, that can really cause you to ignore things in man-children and keep on dating them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nice to have a glasses half full perspective, but you also want to make sure that you are acknowledging what is in that glass.
Yeah. Yes is the answer. Now, is it more likely someone is a man-child if they've never been to therapy? I say this because you mentioned one of the traits of a man-child is that they don't have self-reflection. I feel like those who don't engage in any attempt of self-reflection may not have been to therapy before. Side note, should we only be dating men who have been to therapy?
Great questions. So I'm a little biased here, being a therapist myself, and I would like to tell everyone you should absolutely go to therapy. But in reality, therapy is incredibly important. It helps enhance your self-awareness. It allows you to engage in reflection in ways that you might not otherwise do so. Now, this doesn't mean that there is a one-to-one correspondence, meaning if you have been to therapy, you are not a man-child. Everyone has their own skill set. Some people are just more naturally reflective. They are open to doing the difficult work. Everyone also has their own level of emotional maturity. So their ability to understand their own emotions, their ability to employ coping skills when necessary, their openness to hearing feedback from others and learning and growing. So this is not something that you can only learn if you've been in therapy, but for sure it can help you ask the difficult questions and maybe pose some questions that you otherwise would not have thought of.
Can a former man-child grow up? You talk about emotional maturity. Maturity is just that. You start at immature, you get more mature. I'm sure if you asked for a portrait of me and my character for my ex-wife, you would get that of a man-child. I'd like to think I've grown a little bit in the last, 10 years since we split. 15, I don't know how long it's been. I should probably know that. Can they grow up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People can change over time, and that is a very healthy thing. It is a matter of how open the person is to change and to growth. And additionally, reparative experiences with others. So being in healthy relationships, seeing other healthy models of relationships, doing the work with a clinician or even with a strong social support network. These are all things that can help you grow your skill set over time.
Are there specific red flags that would really trigger you to believe that someone's a man-child, like blaming their exes for all their problems, or never taking responsibility, or always wanting to be right, or never being able to sit down and have a close conversation? What would be some things that if a friend listed the traits of their partner, you'd be thinking in your head, that's a man-child?
You literally hit the nail on the head. Like everything you just asked, those are the red flags.
Oh.
People are constantly engaging in conversation about previous relationships. And these need not even be romantic relationships, just friendships or familial relationships. And they're constantly blaming everyone else or saying that it's the other person's fault. They didn't learn anything from that experience. It takes two to tango. There are many people involved in a relationship. And if something goes wrong, we should be learning and growing from that experience. Another big red flag is defensiveness. So just simply shutting down conversations and throwing it back on the other person. That can be very problematic.
Stop talking about me. No, if every turbulent situation you get yourself in, there's a problem, like with everyone, you're the lowest common denominator there. You're the common thing. If everywhere you go, someone else is the problem, you are the problem. So if someone is describing all their past relationships, it's all their ex's fault. The only thing in common there with all those relationships is that person.
And this need not be a big, bad, scary thing. This just may be the perfect opportunity to pause, take a look inward, and figure out, is it something about the way in which I'm communicating or interacting with others? And what can I do to learn and grow from this situation so that it doesn't happen again?
How many different gaming consoles is the number where you think, okay, this is a man-child? Is it 14? Is it 15? If I own every Xbox, every Nintendo, every whatever?
5.
5. All right. If you own more than 5 consoles, you're the problem.
Scientifically proven.
Scientifically proven by this conversation and no evidence. I'm here with Dr. Marisa Cohen. She is a relationship scientist. She's a relationship expert for dating app Highly. Marisa, this has been a fun chat. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
After the break, what the Godfather of AI is saying about intellectually mundane jobs. Will they all disappear? And if so, when? Also, who's the Godfather of AI? So, stories from the tech industry and what someone who's an expert in AI says about whether the robots will take your job and when in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is time for Technology Time. We are joined by tech expert Carmi Levy to discuss the stories of the day in the dairy farming industry. Welcome, Carmi.
Well, I love me a good cow as much as anyone else, but if there's technology there, sure. But yeah.
We've covered the dairy industry. No, we were here to talk all things tech. Over this week, Carmi, I lost my digital footprint. My computer was encrypted. I had a hard drive in my stuff that got stolen that wasn't. How should I be like locking my credit and like worried about, is there like a service I should use? I'm a little worried about having my identity stolen.
Yeah, you'd probably want to keep a closer eye on, your digital identity. You can certainly get like a monitoring service that can do that for you. And I would obviously go through my accounts and start making sure that they're locked down, changing passwords, ensuring that two-factor, multi-factor authentication and encryption are all activated. Essentially making sure that you've tightened the screws on your digital security so that as your data is out there, because it clearly is, that you minimize the risk of them kind of coming back and using something against you. It's not the sky is falling level of worry. It is just, good prudence level of worry.
I lost my passport. I got issued a new one and lectured at the consulate that the old one will not work, which made me think, okay, these things are so digitized now. I feel like in the 80s, if you lost a passport, some, crafty dude or woman could like use an X-Acto knife, cut out the picture, put in a new picture. Like a lost passport meant a lost identity. Nowadays, how usable is a passport by, someone wanted to cross the border as me? My understanding is they couldn't really do that. Maybe if they were in some country and carried the document on them and said, oh, this is me when they committed a crime, maybe. But in terms of like crossing a border, should I be worried that someone's going to try to travel as me?
Yeah, this is not Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me as you Catch Me If You Can, right? This is not the ability to use an X-Acto knife, craft an exact version of your passport, or use a stolen passport to cross a border or otherwise obtain something in that person's name. However, a passport, even a physical one, is still a repository of a lot of private information, and that data can then be used in other ways. So it's worrisome, just not in the same way. And it's certainly something you'd want to keep your eyes out for as a potential future risk.
Great. All right, let's talk stories of the day of the technology.
Yeah, now that I've kept you up at night.
Great. All right. Oh, I didn't know I just opened a new credit card in Europe. Okay, let's go to our first story where the Godfather make you an offer you can't refuse. A University of Toronto professor emeritus who's been called the Godfather of AI, a gentleman by the name of Geoffrey Hinton, has said that intellectually mundane jobs are going to start disappearing because of AI. What is he saying? How seriously should we believe him? And if I'm in a job that requires a lot of boring manual labor like data entry or something like this, should I be worried in the next year, 5 years, 10 years that AI is going to start stealing my job?
Well, the reason that we're listening to him at all is because it is Dr. Geoffrey Hinton. So he won the Nobel Prize in Physics last year for his, frankly, groundbreaking work on AI. Every time you and I use ChatGPT or any other chatbot or model, the fundamental way of AI being trained and the way AI works, this is the guy that created it. So he is the godfather of AI. He really is the real deal. And he quit his job at Google a couple of years ago to travel the world and lecture about the risks of AI. So this is just Geoffrey Hinton being Geoffrey Hinton, and he continues to worry. He's essentially saying that jobs that are repetitive, knowledge worker type jobs that are not value added, they are at more risk than we previously thought. So if you're a lawyer, if you're a software developer, project manager, writer, you're at risk of automation. And the change with AI is that earlier generations of technology replaced blue collar jobs, right? Physical jobs, the factory jobs, stuffing envelope type jobs. Whereas now AI is coming for white collar workers, and so Hinton is sounding the alarm. Of course, he's getting headlines. Of course, it feels like clickbait. But what he isn't talking about is the jobs that will be created that don't exist. So, what about a prompt engineer or an AI ethicist or an AI trainer? These are roles that did not exist before AI, and they are starting to come into form. He says that he doesn't see these new jobs being created in the same volume as those that are disappearing. I disagree with him. Every earlier generation of technology created more new jobs than were obsoleted. I don't expect that to be any different with AI, and quite frankly, it's up to us as members of the workforce to figure out how to jump from one wave to another. That's always been true. AI is simply, it's pedal to the metal now. It happens much faster. The effect is much more pronounced. And jobs that we previously thought were safe, he is warning us, they are not. And I think that's valid. But the sky isn't falling. It's just time for us to sharpen our pencils a little bit.
People ask me, being in radio, if I'm worried that radio, broadcasting, podcasting, whatever, is going to be replaced by AI hosts. And I'm like, no, people listen to this for our stupidity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People listen to this show person listens to this show for the imperfections. I'm not worried myself in this job, but I don't know. Like, I was buying something at a grocery store yesterday, and it was a pharmacy, and there wasn't a single checkout clerk. It was just all... Like, usually there's one person overseeing the machines. There wasn't even one person there.
Yeah. I think the real thing is, just because AI can do something, just because it can write, just because it can make music, just because it can make a movie, doesn't mean that it does it well. And there's a reason that we follow certain musicians, because there's a relationship there. There's a humanity there. There's a reason we listen to radio, because it is the original social media. There's a humanity there that you're simply not going to get with AI. LinkedIn is awash in AI slop. Now, over 50% of long-form postings on LinkedIn are created by AI. And I can tell you, because I was just on LinkedIn, the vast majority of them are unreadable. So, yeah, AI can create it, but do we really want it as humans? No. And so, again, Dr. Hinton wasn't talking about that, wasn't talking about the humanity that we might be losing in the process. And I think that's something for us to really focus on as AI continues to influence the job market. Yes, a lot of companies are replacing roles with AI. IBM, for example, got rid of a whole bunch of jobs last year and said it would replace it with AI, only to turn around earlier this year and say, we were a little bit rash. AI can't do it all. They're trying to hire those people back. They're not the only company. So I believe Klarna, the payment company, was doing the same thing. 700 people are getting their jobs back because AI couldn't quite cut it. That's where we're at right now. And even as AI continues to improve, it'll never be as human as an actual human.
Well, let's talk about AI slop, I guess, transitioning slightly into an article in The Verge that makes the claim that we're all starting to sound like ChatGPT, and not just in writing, but in the way we speak and interact with one another. Large language models are contributing to the way we use our large language verbally. Do you believe this claim? It seems a little out of whack to me.
No, I do. They studied hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos and online postings, researchers in Germany, and they realized that words like delve and prowess and tapestry showed up a lot more frequently, in some cases 50% more often than other words like bolster, unearth, and nuance, which were downplayed by the bots. And it turns out that AI does favor some words and not favor others, which means you can tell when it's AI because they're using certain words that wouldn't otherwise be used in regular conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, they analyze YouTube videos, and I imagine these YouTubers are using AI to write their scripts. I'm not convinced it's happening conversationally, like, me sitting down at the dinner table. I just feel like analyzing YouTube videos is a weird sample set, is all.
But it's when they're analyzing use cases when we use AI to write. So when we use a smart response in email, or when we use ChatGPT and then we cut and paste that into a script and then use that script to create a YouTube video, we're using certain words that are biased by AI. And I think that's the thing, is just recognize that when you use AI to write for you, it sounds like it because the words give us away, and there's less of that variability, that stopping and starting, that all that you get when you're a human, when you're not automated. So something to bear in mind, AI is changing the way we communicate.
When we come back, see what I did there?
Nicely done.
We will discuss more doom and gloom. Billions of login credentials have leaked online. Is your password in that leak? It might be. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and it's time for Technology Time continues with Carmi Levy in a moment.
This MLB season, FanDuel's Dinger Tuesday is back. And this year, all customers get a profit boost to bet home runs every week. So gear up to go yard all season long on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
We are back with Carmi Levy, technology expert on It's Time for Technology Time. Sometimes, Carmi, when I see these big leaks online of people's passwords, I always look at how many. And if it's like 5 million, I start to worry because I think, well, if mine's in there, it's not that huge a number. It's enough for cyber criminals to find me. But when I see the word billion, I think, okay, well, even if my password's in there, there's so many accounts. Maybe there's safety in numbers. Maybe I'm safe in the herd, if you know what I'm saying. Tell me about this latest leak. It's pretty startling if what cybersecurity researchers are saying is true.
This is a big one. It's 16 billion compromised credentials. So basically 2 for every person on planet Earth. If the math works out. Cybersecurity outlet Cyber News did the research. They said they found 30 data sets online. So this isn't from one breach. It's from a number of different breaches over time. And criminals have just been adding them, cumulatively into an ever-growing pile. And what's scary about this one is that their usernames and passwords for platforms that we use every day, Google, Facebook, Apple, and others. And so chances are there's, that Venn diagram, there's overlap with you, me, many of our listeners. And because of the sheer size and because of the who is touched by this, it's something that we really do need to pay attention to. Breaches like this and events like this happen all the time, but the size and scale and scope and the who, I think behoove us to not ignore this one. Again, doesn't mean the sky is falling, but we tend to usually just sigh and walk away whenever we hear reports like this, and we don't change our passwords and we continue doing what we've been doing all along, which really maximizes the risk, puts us at more risk than we probably should be exposed to.
What can I do having maybe just got my laptop stolen with all my passwords on it? What can I do? I've never used a password manager. Is there one you recommend? I want to set all my passwords to be weird, strong, odd letters, that kind of thing. What can I do?
I've used various password managers over time. I do recommend them as a way of automating the process and ensuring that you do use difficult to guess passwords, unique passwords on all of your services, and that you change them regularly. Those 3 best practices can make all the difference in terms of protecting ourselves when we see stories like this. The one that I have kind of settled on is known as 1Password. It is, best of breed. It shows up on the top of the, best of lists all the time. It works for me. Your mileage may vary. As a Canadian, I'm a big fan of it. It's a Canadian company, but again, NordPass is another really great alternative. Dashlane is a good one too. And basically what you do is you sign in to that app with all of your different apps and services and websites and accounts, and then it manages the passwords for you. You no longer have to worry about it. So again, if you've been using the same password on the same accounts for, ever since you were in high school, this might be the moment for you to start considering using a password manager, and I would certainly recommend it.
I'm literally downloading 1Password right now. Free advertising for them, I guess. I got to make the switch.
There you go.
All my bad practices end today. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's usually the lesson, right? When something happens. So in this case, there's a headline. In your case, you suffered, obviously a physical loss and your data is in the wind. Simply changing your password, that's the first and best line of defense, because that slams the door on anyone who might have gained access to your personal information.
Our last story today doesn't come as a surprise to me, but streaming services are now officially, in the US, more popular than cable and broadcast television combined. It's like I've lost the memory of what it's like to sit in my living room, wait for a certain time to come on, watch a show, have commercials. The idea of doing that right now to me is absurd. Sure, I watch television programs produced by cable and network and broadcast TV, but it's always streamed when I want to watch them, never live, and always commercial free because I pay for the subscription service. Definitely I pay. I would never download anything illegally. That's illegal. I wouldn't do that. No. Who would ever do that? Don't do that. Not recommended.
You're so good.
We all are. No one would ever do that. But yeah, is this a milestone? Does it surprise you?
It very much is, because data from Nielsen, the ratings giant, shows that last month streaming services got more hours of viewing than both broadcast and television, cable television combined for the first time. So 45% share of viewing hours for streaming last month versus 44% for cable and broadcast together, which is a pretty important tipping point, because it really does show that, we don't want to wait until Thursday at 8 to watch our favorite show. We want to watch it now on demand. The notion of linear, channels with specific times to watch specific shows is kind of laughable in the digital age. What's interesting is that The Who, you would expect younger users who are more digitally inclined to be driving this growth, but Nielsen says that isn't the case. It's actually older users over 65 who are, maybe trying to save some money, going for one of those free services like Tubi, free television services, where they show the older shows. So Murder, She Wrote, I Dream of Jeannie, Gilligan's Island. There's a lot of nostalgia for those, and that's driving a lot of viewership growth as well. And my favorite, YouTube, which is even bigger than Netflix in terms of hours viewed. How much time are we spending on YouTube watching not only user-generated content, videos that regular everyday folks have created, but also programming, real good programming, television shows and movies that, when YouTube was launched, you would not have imagined that it would become a major source for it, but it has. So I think it really does show we have lots of choice when it comes to watching what we want. And increasingly, it's streaming, not broadcast.
What is the future of broadcast and cable TV? Are they going to have to shift and become streaming services, or will there always be a demand for this kind of old legacy style media?
We're seeing broadcasters having to, change their tune, so to speak. They're increasingly partnering with streaming services or introducing digital streaming apps of their own, so that what's available on their broadcast channels is also available digitally on demand. This is what happens. The world changes around you, the technology changes, and you have to adapt to it. There is still a regulatory regime in the US as well as in other countries that requires broadcasters to maintain their ability to broadcast over the air so that people can get it for free. That isn't going away anytime soon until those laws disappear. But for now, broadcasters either adapt or die. And I don't think there's such thing in the US as a broadcaster that doesn't have a parallel digital capability so that you can go to their website or go to their app and access their content that way as well. Will that be enough for them to survive in their current form? Let's talk about that in a few months from now.
Remains to be determined. I think of the analog in radio, and looking here in the U.S., there's a bill before the House. I think it's passed, or it has a lot of support behind it, to force AM radios, the majority of the stations that broadcast this show are AM, to force AM radios into cars. Because I know some auto manufacturers are saying, well, why bother? I would hope they would bother. And it's for like emergency purposes, because when the internet goes out, when the cell phones go out, if something were to happen, whether it's like a major storm or some sort of conflict, AM radio could in some form be the only way that broadcasting could get out. And in cars is a great way to do it, especially if there's like the power grid goes down, your car's on, you still have enough fuel to just like listen to the radio. I kind of agree with this bill, maybe for self-protecting reasons, but yeah, I do think there'll always be a demand for like over-the-air signal.
I agree.
But we're seeing a big shift. In radio, it's to podcasting. I do both. In TV, it's traditional broadcasting and then streaming, and I think a lot of major outlets are doing both.
I think it makes a lot of sense for any medium to adapt to the technology realities of the day, but at the same time, there are benefits to the older technology that we cannot ignore, and they need to be protected to a certain degree. Next time there's a tornado in your town, when every other technology doesn't work, broadcasting will. We don't want to get rid of that prematurely.
Well, Carmi Levy, there's a benefit to having you on this show that I can't ignore, and it's that you're delightful. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate being here. Thanks so much, David.
After the break, climbing the social ladder. Does it change who you are if you do better socially, gain more prestige? Does your personality change? Well, someone did the research, and I'm curious to find out whether you, if people think you're like better and stuff, change. That in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Oh, such a clutch pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom, too. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Save up to 50% with minimum purchase at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Does climbing up in social class actually change who you are? Does climbing the social ladder, gaining more prestige, change you? Or just your circumstances? Well, social psychologist Dr. Anatolia Batruch from the University of Lausanne in Switzerland is with me to talk about a new study tracking first-generation university students to find out whether education and upward mobility reshape your core personality traits. Or does a change in our social standing make us stay, deep down, the same person? Anatolia, thanks for joining me today.
Well, my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
In plain language, what were you hoping to find out with personality and upward social mobility when you started this study?
So what we were interested in looking at is that we know that there's a relationship between the person's social class and their personality. So for instance, usually people who are from a higher social class tend to be a little more extroverted. And we wanted to see if people change social class, if that will also affect their personality. Now, we know that this is a really kind of conservative test because usually personality doesn't change that much during the life course. But the one time in people's life where it does change is usually young adulthood. So we thought, what is happening in young adulthood that might trigger a change in personality? And one of the things that does happen in young adulthood is actually changing your social class environment for a minority of the people, unfortunately, because we tend to live in societies that has quite a bit of social class reproduction of inequalities. But for a large minority of people, it actually entails changing social class. And for a certain amount of students, going to university is a time where you're going to be exposed to another social class environment, and your peers will be from another social class. So what we're trying to see is if we compare people from a certain social class, that is, they have parents that have lower level of education, and they arrive at university, and we compare them to people who had a similar social class, so also parents who didn't go to university, but they themselves also do not go to university, whether their personality evolves during those years in a similar pattern or not. And we thought that it might change a bit, and it turns out it doesn't change much, actually.
Why university? Is this like a good setting for testing a new social class environment? What makes looking at university kids so special here?
Well, because we know that for first-generation student, at least, going to university tends to be a bit of a destabilizing time. So we have research showing that in terms of identity, it's a complicated time. They don't necessarily feel like they really belong. So there's reason to assume that it is actually a change in environment, and that does trigger something in terms of identity. So we thought perhaps it also makes them change, because since there is a relationship with social class, does it happen when they enter university? It could happen also later when they have their first job. Maybe it's more linked to money. So once they get a bit of money, that's when they start to change. And we thought one of the first time where it really does change for these people, for young adults, is when they go to university. But it doesn't seem like it does. So maybe it happens later.
Were you surprised by how little personality shifted at this major life transition for young adults?
Yeah, we were surprised. I mean, we did find one small change, which is people who underwent university actually became a bit more cautious as compared to those who are also from a similar social class but didn't go to university. So there is a little bit of change, but it's quite minimal. The rest, your level of extroversion, your tendency to be kind, your tendency to be hardworking, for instance, all those things didn't change much, actually.
I can relate there. I was not a hard worker in university, and my whole life, it's like buckling down in my professional jobs and getting work done by a deadline has always been a struggle. Let's dig a little deeper here. Your findings, do they challenge the idea that people are shaped primarily by their environments? If they're not shaped by their environments, what are they shaped by?
So there is a consensus that part of personality is inherited. And so part of it is genes. And obviously, a big part is the environment. But since it doesn't change in time much, it's a bit of a mystery how it happens. So we know that, for instance, something that's kind of overlooked is like even kind of saying what is environment and what is genes is a little complicated because let's say you are very curious, and that's by nature. So you're very young, you're already very curious. You'll tend to choose environments that will suit that personality. And so you'll be reinforcing that personality just by choosing environments that fit how you feel. So is it genes? Is it the environment? It's usually kind of a mixture of both. So I'm not sure we can really delineate. But what we thought was important is that there is this assumption that like if there's social class differences, there must be the environment, right? So there is an underlying very strong assumption that social class is like your context, your living context, your experiences. So we should find socialization processes. So if you change social class environment, you should change also. But the question is probably, does it change some more malleable parts of who you are? Or maybe it takes much more time. So this is still what we're working on and trying to discover. There's probably is a socialization process. We do change over time. People who change country in the end kind of adapt to the country that they are. But how did it happen? When is, it's still a mystery.
I want to latch on to what you said there just a few moments ago, this idea of curious kids. Well, maybe there's a genetic component, maybe there's a gene, whatever. But if you're just slightly more curious by nature, you're going to seek out environments that validate that are curious environments, and then your environment's going to play into it, and it's this feedback loop. I've always thought of like nature versus nurture as a dichotomy, as completely separate, but I guess what you're saying is it isn't. They kind of, it's like a feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly that. So we as researchers don't really think of it as a dichotomy. We think of it as input that kind of feeds off each other and kind of builds over time who you are. So yeah, it is an interesting thing. It's also, we tend to seek people that are like-minded. So we tend to reinforce that by looking at people. So it's not just environment. It's like everything around you is also shaped by your choices. And your choices are partly nature, partly nurture.
My understanding is you found that more risk-averse teens are more likely to go to university.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that have a major outcome in what someone is like in terms of their personality?
I mean, there's other factor also that predicts in terms of personality. So we know that the more curious you are, the more likely you'll be to seek university, even for similar grades. So there is certain personality traits that maybe are not conducive to your success. Some of them are, but are at least conducive to you deciding to go to university. So maybe with similar grades, if you're a bit more cautious, you think, well, it's a long-term investment, but it's a good investment. So I think it's better than taking a risk and not doing university, so that you'll be more likely to choose university. But apparently, going to university also makes you more cautious. And now the big question is it what you do at university, or is it being with people that tend to be more cautious? My guess would be it's something like being risk prone or risk averse is very influenced by the people around you. We all know that we tend to take more or less risk depending on who's with us and who's egging us on. So I'm guessing it's probably the fact of being with other people that tend to be also more cautious.
Can we ever upgrade who we are? If university doesn't do it for us, could life experiences change us? Getting married, near-death experience, maybe hosting an evening talk show, something like that?
Yeah, you can change. You usually don't change completely, but if you work on certain facets, for sure, you can see improvement in personality. But the good news is, as we age, we all have a better personality overall. So that's something to look forward to.
Well, Dr. Anatolia Batruch is a social psychologist at the University of Lausanne in Switzerland. Anatolia, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
That is the show. Thanks for listening. Don't forget the last show is available as a podcast. If you like what you heard but you didn't catch the whole night, or you're going to miss us on a given evening, just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com, and there you can find out details how to subscribe and probably other stuff too. I am David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and thank you for tuning in. I think I already said that. We'll be back tomorrow.
Big Brother is back.
Let's freak it go!
This summer, the game gets hotter, the alliances get trickier, and the blind sides, brutal.
Just a roller coaster of backstabbing and craziness.
New house guests, new twists, same epic drama.
Bro, I'm gunning for you. You're my #1 target.
Who can you trust when everyone's watching?
Game on, baby.
Big Brother. New season Thursday, July 10th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.